Welcome to The Explainer. You ever get stuck on a decision just replaying those what ifs over and over in your head? Well, today we're diving into the science behind that really nagging feeling. We're going to explore what's actually happening in your brain when you feel regret, and more importantly, figure out how we can break free from that loop. So, why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we get on this mental hamster wheel and just run in circles? To really get it, we first need to understand the specific pattern of thinking that keeps us stuck on the same thought again and again. And that pattern has a name: rumination. The word actually comes from how cows chew their cud, just over and over. For us, this isn't just, thinking deeply about something. It's a very specific cycle of repetitive, unhelpful, and usually pretty negative thoughts that keeps our minds locked on the past. Now, we can ruminate on all sorts of feelings, but regret? Regret has this unique sting to it. See, disappointment is just about a bad outcome. Oh man, that stinks. But regret is totally different. It's tied to our responsibility. It's that little voice that says, I feel bad because I made the wrong choice. And that's the feeling we're really going to dig into today. Okay, so how in the world do scientists study something as personal and complex as regret? Well, they focus on this mental process called counterfactual thinking. And to measure it, they've come up with some really clever experiments to basically trigger that what-if feeling on command. So counterfactual thinking, that is the engine that drives regret. It's our brain's natural habit of weighing what is against what might has been. And what's so cool is that researchers found a way to reliably switch this mental state on in a lab setting. They use a super simple gambling task, just like this. So first, you choose a box. Then you see what you won, how many points you got. But here's the twist, the absolutely crucial third step. They then show you what you would have won if you'd picked the other boxes. And that final reveal, that's the secret sauce for manufacturing regret in a totally controlled way. And this just shows the power of it perfectly. I mean, winning $50 feels awesome if the other box only had 10. That's gratification, right? But winning that exact same $50 feels like a total failure when you find out you could have had 200. The outcome is identical, but our emotional reaction is worlds apart, all because of that what if. So what's actually happening up in our brains during these really powerful emotional moments? Well, the brain scans give us this fascinating look inside. When you get that rush of gratification, that, whew, I made the right call feeling, your brain's reward centers, areas like the ventral striatum, just light right up. This is basically the part of your brain that goes, yes, good job, do that again. But when that sting of regret hits, a completely different network just sparks to life. This network is tied to processing negative emotions and self-reflection, as your brain scrambles to make sense of the choice you just made. Let's look a little closer. Gratification fires up the ventral striatum, a core part of our reward system. But regret brings in different players. It activates the orbitofrontal cortex, which is kind of like a judge evaluating our decisions, and the subgenual cingulate cortex, a region that helps generate those painful emotions. Now, this whole system isn't just there to make us feel bad. It's a really powerful feedback mechanism designed to help us make better choices next time. And here's the kicker. These emotional responses aren't just these fleeting little moments. Research shows they have this lingering effect on our brain's activity, even when we're just chilling out, not thinking about anything. And that brings us to a really critical brain network involved in rumination. It's called the default mode network, or the DMN. You can think of it as your brain's autopilot. It kicks in when you're not focused on something specific, handling stuff like daydreaming and thinking about yourself. The problem is, scans show that when we ruminate, this autopilot network gets overactive. So instead of just gentle mind-wandering, it gets stuck in a loop, replaying the same negative, self-critical thoughts. So have you ever wondered why some of us seem to get trapped in this rumination loop way more easily than others? Well, our own personalities and how our brains are wired actually offers some pretty important clues. It's pretty incredible, but studies show our personality traits directly link up with our brain's response. So for people with depressive tendencies, the activity in their reward center actually fades faster after a win. It's like the good feeling glow just doesn't last as long. Meanwhile, for people who are prone to rumination, their regret center stays active longer after a bad outcome, literally keeping their brain focused on the what if. It shows it's not just a state of mind. It's a real, measurable pattern of brain activity that helps explain why shaking these feelings can be so darn hard. Okay, so now that we kind of get the why behind getting stuck, let's switch gears and talk about the how. Here are 2 science-backed ways you can interrupt that cycle of rumination and start taking back control. Technique number 1 is mindfulness. Now, this isn't just about relaxing. It's a way to deliberately disengage that overactive default mode network. By focusing your attention really intently on the present moment, what you hear, what you feel, your own breath, you're forcing your brain to switch off that ruminating autopilot and instead engage with the here and now. The second technique is super practical, an if-then action plan. First, you just identify your physical tells, the signs that you're starting to ruminate. Maybe your neck gets tight or you start fidgeting. Then you create a specific plan. The key here, and this is really important, is to physically write it down. That simple act creates an external instruction that can actually override the internal automatic loop of the DMN, getting you out of your head and into deliberate action. And you can build a whole toolkit of these then actions. They can be relaxing things like meditation, or simple task-oriented things like going for a walk, or even constructive problem solving. So instead of just worrying about something, you could set a 15-minute timer to actively brainstorm concrete solutions. The whole goal is just to have a list of options ready to pull yourself out of that mental quicksand. So, to bring it all home, this quote really nails the essence of regret. It's all about that painful comparison. But what the science makes clear is that this feeling actually has a purpose. Regret is a powerful learning signal. It's our brain's way of evaluating past choices to help us adjust our behavior and hopefully do better next time. So maybe the ultimate question isn't how do we get rid of regret, but how do we harness it? If we understand the mechanism, we can learn from its lesson to make a better choice next time without getting trapped in its emotional loop. The goal is to listen to the signal, but not get lost in the noise. Thanks for watching.